Up until about 3 years ago, nobody knew who Mark Forkner was. As a matter of fact, Forkner had such a small internet footprint that until recently, there was just one old LinkedIn photo of him, and that was about it. No Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, or any social media at all. For all intents and purposes, Forkner was just an urban legend, a myth living in the shadows. But that all changed when Boeing struck a deal with the United States Department of Justice and threw Mark Forkner under the bus and into the spotlight. Now his silver-haired pictures are all over the internet, especially this week because Forkner's long-awaited trial has begun in a Texas U.S. District Court. And now the once tight-lipped shadow figure is on full display at his trial, and he is determined to tell anybody and everybody his side of the story once and for all. And last week, that began with just 4 simple words when in open federal court, Judge Reed O'Connor asked Forkner for his plea, to which Forkner turned and directly faced his jury and profoundly stated, "I am not guilty."
You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth!
That's next on Maximus. Greetings everybody, Maximus here. Well, the day that many of us have been waiting for is finally here, and hopefully we're going to get many answers to the questions that Boeing has never answered regarding what really happened leading up to the Boeing MAX disasters. Well, on Friday, March 18th, federal prosecutors told a Texas jury comprised of 11 men, 1 woman, and 4 alternates that Boeing's former 737 MAX chief technical pilot Mark Forkner tried to manipulate and deceive federal regulators in the government's only criminal case to date over the flawed aircraft that twice crashed and prompted a global grounding. However, Forkner's defense lawyers said Boeing engineers kept Mark Forkner in the dark about changes to the system, which played a role in the 2 crashes that killed 346 people. One of Forkner's lawyers, David Gerger, said, in March of 2016, Boeing engineers changed the MCAS program and they decided who to tell and who not to tell. And they did not tell Mr. Forkner. Gerger went on to say that for root causes that had nothing to do with his client, the 2 MAX jets crashed in Indonesia and Ethiopia. Forkner's defense team said changes were made to the 737 MAX software system after he talked to regulators and he was never notified. They also questioned potential jurors about whether or not they understood the phrase scapegoat. Forkner, who led the MAX testing team, is being tried in U.S. District Court in Fort Worth on 4 counts of wire fraud because of documents sent from Boeing to 2 of the plane's biggest customers, Dallas-based Southwest Airlines and Fort Worth-based American Airlines. Each charge carries up to 20 years in prison. Prosecutors will attempt to use Forkner's own text messages against him, especially one in which he said, "So I basically unknowingly lied to the regulators." Prosecutor Scott Armstrong told jurors the defendant had contempt for these regulators, and he mocked these regulators, adding that as Forkner learned more about changes to the flight control system called MCAS, he doubled down on the lies. But defense attorney David Gerger said his side will show jurors that Boeing engineers withheld information from Forkner, and it wasn't Forkner who set out to save the company money by minimizing pilot training requirements. That objective came down directly from Boeing's board of directors, he said. The federal government's case relies on communications between Forkner and co-workers and documents that say he knew about changes to the airplane that made it unstable. If regulators found out about the severity of the changes, the FAA would require pilots to take additional training and Boeing would be forced to pay an extra $1 million per plane to carriers such as Southwest, which ordered hundreds of the jets. Forkner's lawyers said damning emails were carefully selected from among thousands and only after an exhaustive government investigation. They said that Forkner was prone to making explosive and hyperbolic statements, and that his emails that seemed to admit lying to federal regulators were just the words of a tired employee at the end of a hard day. Yeah, I don't know about that one. The opening statements came after the selection of a jury of 11 men, 1 woman, and 4 alternates. An American Airlines pilot was dismissed, so was a man who said he had flown several times on Boeing MAX jets. Judge Reed O'Connor made it clear that there was no way to disqualify every potential juror who had read or seen news accounts about the Boeing MAX. He quizzed several people whether they could set aside their notions of the issue and focus on evidence that will be presented when testimony starts on Monday. According to the indictment, Forkner knew about changes that made MCAS activate more often than originally planned, but alleged he withheld that knowledge from Federal Aviation Administration regulators. As a result, information about the new flight control system MCAS was deleted from an FAA report and airplane manuals, leaving pilots unaware the system even existed. The indictment, however, does not blame the crashes on Forkner, but his lawyer said he would not be facing criminal charges if the crashes had not occurred. The list of witnesses for the prosecution includes 3 Boeing employees, government experts, and representatives from 2 big Boeing customers, Southwest Airlines and American Airlines. The defense could call more than 24 current or former Boeing employees, including several test pilots and Curtis Eubank, an engineer and whistleblower who quit after alleging that his bosses rejected safety improvements to the MAX because they would cost too much money. Forkner is also listed as a potential witness. Boeing reached a settlement with federal officials to avoid prosecution for conspiracy. The company paid a $244 million fine as part of a January 2021 agreement. But several potential jurors told the judge they saw a recent documentary airing on Netflix called Downfall: The Case Against Boeing, and others had seen various news reports about the case. 2 excused jurors were American Airlines pilots, and others had family members who flew or worked for American or Southwest. And one potential woman told the judge, "My husband is obsessed with that documentary." When attorneys asked her if she watched it, she said, "Well, I sat and listened to it while I folded the laundry." She too was dismissed. So the testimony is set to begin Monday, March 21st, which may or may not be today, depending on when I get this video out. But I'll follow it closely and report back to you with any and all breaking news on the trial. So I really do want to know what you think. Do you think Forkner is a scapegoat? Or do you believe the DOJ is doing the right thing in prosecuting him? I'm really looking forward to hearing both sides. There are no wrong opinions. At least not on this channel anyway. Well, that's going to wrap it up for now. Hey, if you haven't yet subscribed, I would appreciate it if you would consider doing so. Oh, and Dennis, thank you my friend for your continued support. And if you would like to help support the channel and the work we do here, the links are always in the description. And on your way out, please be sure to like, share, and ring the bell. And remember, leave the rubber on the runway and your troubles on the ground. And I will see you next time in the air. Yeah, this is Maximus.